conversation.
WTF.
Yes. Well, we all say that. We all say that. And look at you guys. We have 4 people already jumping on, and we're even in 8 people. We're even early today for us anyway. So welcome everyone. Say hi in the comments so we know who is here.
Hi in the comments.
Hi, Ashley.
Yeah, I can't see it. I'm gonna let you read.
Oh, you know, I may see the comments before you do.
Okay.
They will pop up there.
Okay. Oh, I see more names coming in. I can't read them, but
you can wear your glasses.
I don't have my glasses on.
You can wear your glasses. Hello, everyone. Donna, Debbie, Rebecca. Hey, Deb. Tracy, hi. Tracy says sound and audio are good, which is great. Because you know we have our challenges periodically. So welcome, everyone, to our Thursday Facebook Live in support of the Healthy Dog Expo. Today, my guest is the one and only Susan Thixton of Truth About Pet Food, the most fearless pet food warrior on the planet, and funniest person I know. We laugh. We have our regular weekly conversation, which this is kind of taking the place of.
Yeah.
So forgive us if we are a little casual at times, but we laugh a lot, and we share.
You have to. Doing this work, you have to.
You have to laugh. Exactly. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Heather. You know, it's serious work, and we certainly don't make light of everything, but sometimes you got to keep your sense of humor. So we've got our 40 people on here. So why don't we dive in, Susan?
Sure.
Where can we start? That's usually where things start.
You know, regulations. Regulations are my thing. We want everybody to know too. Send us questions if you want us to talk about something. You know, we have issues that we like to talk about, complain about, but they might not be your issues. So for me, it's regulations, and we do have regulations, but they're not enforced, and that's my pet food peeve. Is that law is ignored. Every time I go into the grocery store, I'm just angry because you have this whole aisle of products that are in a food store that are not food. They're not using food quality ingredients. They don't abide by food safety laws. They're not manufactured under food safety standards, yet they're sold in a food store.
And in that aisle, in many of my local stores, the pet food is on one side of the aisle, and opposite it is bleach, soap, detergents, things that smell really nasty. It's crazy. Hey, Janet, welcome. Yeah, it's rainy up here too. It is mind-boggling to me. And now in my local store, my most frequently visited one, in the middle of the pet food aisle, there's this little refrigerator section where they're selling refrigerated, I'll call them rolls or chubs, as well as packages, and it's supposed to be even more like food. But it's right next to the Clorox, for Pete's sake.
And the perception of those products, for one, all the people listening here, people that follow me, Lori, the people that follow you, they understand the difference between feed and food. But the majority of people out there assume it's food. And it is so wrong that the FDA blatantly absolutely refuses to require that disclosure on labels. Many of those products are made with the exact same ingredients as chicken feed, cattle feed, hog feed, those products are labeled as feed.
Yeah. And they
But
may contain moldy corn or other
yeah,
ingredients, spoiled stuff, stuff that a ruminant can derive some nutrition from, but not something that a dog or cat. And as I was thinking about that grocery aisle, and then I saw Sally's comment here, which I'll put on the screen. Sally mentions, what can a pet parent do to report an adverse reaction? And I was thinking too about the Rachel Ray food debacle, which, these two things are sort of related. So why don't we speak to reporting these
okay. On
reactions?
my website, and I have a link in the sidebar of any post. I have a link of like sick pet caused by pet food. And I contacted all 50 US states and asked who it should be reported to in that state. So I have that resource for pet owners on my website. One is the FDA to report if you believe your pet got sick. One is reporting it to the FDA, but two is reporting it to your state. So you pay sales tax on every single pet product you buy. Your state should stand up for you if your pet got sick. It's not a guarantee they will, but they should. So report it to the state authority and that page on my website does provide, in some cases, a name, contact name if the state provided me with it, an email address, a phone number of who to report it to. The FDA, should the FDA investigate your report? In most cases, the FDA will not provide you with any information during the investigation, such as if they test the pet food, they won't tell you what the results are. But often states will. So often states will test a pet food for a pet owner. You say the pet got sick, your vet backs that up. And so often a state will test the food for you, and states are a little bit better about providing those results back to the pet owner than FDA is.
That's really key.
And it does make a difference. So here's an example, the perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
In the Avengers recall. So that was in 2017, New Year's Eve, 2017.
Avengers makes a variety of canned foods, right?
Canned foods, yes.
Okay.
And this pet owner fed her 5 little dogs, shared a can of Avengers hunk of beef was the product. And within 15 minutes, all 5 dogs started staggering around, falling down. She scooped them all up, took them to the emergency clinic. One of the dogs did not survive. The other dogs did. And this pet owner made the difficult decision to have a necropsy performed on the dog that died. The scientists that performed the necropsy tested the dog food in the dog's stomach and found pentobarbital.
Which is euthanasia drug.
Drug used to euthanize animals, yes. That story, of course, made news. And a journalist in that pet food was recalled. A journalist in Washington, D.C. talked to that pet owner and wondered I wonder if other pet foods contain pentobarbital. And she tested, I believe, 63 cans and 9 cans of other styles of pet food.
Wow.
Came up positive for pentobarbital.
Yeah.
Between these two people doing their due diligence, one after the loss of a pet, making that tough decision of we got to find out why. The second, and the journalist is a pet owner, the journalist going to the testing, they got almost 92 million pounds of pet food recall.
I wonder, how many animals that could have saved.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
We're at risk.
So it absolutely does make a difference. Save your packaging because you need, and that's huge. often FDA or the state will not investigate if you don't have that lot number and best by date. Save your packaging. If it's a canned food, either save the can or rip off the label and
Yeah.
save it until it's gone.
Yeah.
And you know your pet is okay.
And if it's a dry food and you're storing it in a bin, store it in the bag.
Absolutely.
And keep that bag there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So reporting, and I'll extend that to veterinary drugs and medical treatments. If your animal has an adverse reaction to anything, report it, because you don't know who you're going to save, basically.
Yeah. I think the statistic is, this is on my website too, 48% of all recalls over the past 10 years have been due to a pet owner,
consumers,
following through, wanting to know, why did my dog, a lot of the mycotoxin recalls were recent recalls, were because dogs died and the pet owner went, wait a minute, and tested the food, so forth. So, and then they reported it. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I have encouraged, begged, pleaded, FDA to do a more consumer awareness campaign on this. Because and for veterinarians as well too. Lori, of course, knows what to do because she's got a pain in the butt friend. But not all veterinarians know that they need to be reporting this stuff too. And we've begged FDA to initiate an awareness campaign. They can have their awareness campaign on the dangers of raw pet food, but they won't do this. And I firmly believe that if more pet owners knew to report it, knew how to go get their pet food tested, the pet food industry would be a lot safer.
Yeah, they'd be policing themselves so that the consumers weren't doing it to them. Now let's kind of segue into the latest class action suit that involves the Rachel Ray product, the Just 6. It's the same sort of thing. It's consumer deception, in a way. And that suit was started because the pet owner had a dog that was sensitive to grains, to soy, corn, what have you. And this product had a specific claim that it had no corn, wheat, or soy.
Just 6.
Lamb and rice, and just 6 ingredients.
Yeah.
And
when the pet owner had the food tested.
Yeah. And they did
DNA analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, they did quantitative DNA so they could say what was the most predominant ingredient, the second most, et cetera, et cetera. And my gosh, I was blown away when I saw the list of, I'm sure it was more than 16, maybe even more than 26.
It was more than 6 for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And what for you was the most surprising ingredient that was found by DNA?
Dog DNA.
Dog DNA.
Probably the southern half of the U.S. the day I'm scrolling through that lawsuit, they thought it was a sonic boom or something. It wasn't. It was me screaming.
Yeah.
Because there it was. This is something that we've suspected. Our guts have told us. Of course, it's in there with these nasty rendered ingredients, but it has never been documented through science. Before this, to my knowledge, it's never actually been documented. And there it was. I went running in the other room to tell my daughter, and then I get on the phone and start calling people. It was, it's sad, but at the same time, it is validation to a certain extent for all of us that keep screaming these nasty rendered waste ingredients. I've shared pictures of these facilities for years on my website, and it's It's disgusting. It's illegal. They're
really is.
absolutely illegal, but yet
There
FDA
it
goes,
is.
come on, it's okay.
Yeah.
An interesting point. Somebody, Lori, it might have even been you, but I think it was a comment on my post on these rendered ingredients. They said that so my perspective of all this waste, it's waste disposal.
Mm-hmm.
The FDA goes, we got to put this waste, these diseased animal carcasses, condemned, decomposing material, we got to put it somewhere because it can't go in landfills. So they put it into pet food, but they're disposing of it in people's backyards.
Yes.
They're disposing of it in parks when people don't pick up after their pet. So they're dumping it on us, and refusing to disclose it on top of that.
Yeah. I want to try something really high tech for you guys, at least high tech for me. I want to try to show you the DNA results, and I'm going to skip the first few, which were sheep, because this was a lamb and rice based food. The third most common ingredient was cattle. The fourth was deer. But here's the rest of the things, and I'm just going to see if it will let me. Window.
Yeah, Laura, you need to share what you've learned about that last ingredient on there.
Yeah. Oh, I now have to give Chrome permission. Oh, forget it. You know what? Make the file available to you guys after. I'll put a link in. But you can see the amazing number of ingredients, including dog and horse. And of course, the corn, wheat, soy are there. Chicken is there in this exclusive lamb meal food. Trout and turkey, sweet potato, salmon, sorghum, duck, and my personal favorite, zebrafish. Yes, zebrafish. They're called Danios scientifically. The little black and white striped fish that are in your tropical aquarium are in the Just Six feed product for dogs. My mind was blown. Where in the world these little fish weigh? They're 1.5 inches long. They weigh maybe 50 grams a piece. And we've got enough of them in a commercial kibble that's made by the ton, by the tens of tons in many cases, to be able to detect it. I mean, our science is good, but there's got to be a lot of these little fish in there. And I learned that they're being used in laboratories now because they are an accurate model for many human health problems. And of course, they can raise them very quickly. They reproduce quickly. They're small. They're no trouble. They live in the water. And then when you want to dispose of them, well, evidently, you sell them to somebody who's going to render them into a meat meal type product. So just mind blown on zebrafish being in Rachel Ray. But I was really surprised that in the class action suit, they did not bring up the fact that horse and dog were both in there.
I was very surprised. Yeah.
Those are proteins that most Americans are going to object to in their dog food. Some people might be okay feeding horse, but a lot of Americans are not.
And some of the comments that I got on the amount of dog or horse in it was trace amount. It could have been a few hairs. No,
not in 100,000 pounds of food.
That's what pet owners don't realize. They tested a cup, let's say. Okay, so it was 0.08% in this cup. But if you go back and look at how much of lamb meal, that was the listed protein of this dog food, and that's a rendered ingredient, so we have no idea really what goes into it.
Yeah,
it could be they get these shipments of meat meals 60,000 pounds worth of it at a time. So, how much dog DNA was in that
Yeah.
50,000 pounds? How many dogs?
And
Were,
where did those dogs come from?
yeah,
Yes, in many cases they were euthanized or potentially roadkill type dogs that were picked up and they have to be disposed of somehow. But they are not by anyone's stretch of the imagination a healthy protein to nourish your dog with. And that's not even considering any drugs that they may contain.
yeah, and
So
that's
the
another thing
whole
they didn't do is
piece is just
test
mind-blowing.
test the food for pentobarbital with dog
Yeah,
and horse in there.
it's
That's what I would
entirely
have done.
plausible.
Yeah,
I don't, and going back to my zebrafish, because we can, um, laboratory animals, yes, are euthanized many times all the time at the end of experiments. It's not like they adopt out mice and rats and such from the lab. And whatever drugs they do to do so would, of course, be in that animal's body. And even in the fish, they will put anesthetics into the water to
and labs are
even,
required. Yeah, research labs like that are required
yeah,
to humanely euthanize. Yeah,
yeah. And Tracy asked, can't these animals just be buried? Trace, the scale is so huge. The simple answer is no. How are you going to bury 10,000 pounds of mice? Because that's the output. It's just huge.
but they don't have to end up in a food product.
Correct.
They could go to fertilizer. They could go to biodiesel, producing biodiesel fuel.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, we're smart people. We could find another responsible, ethical, eco-friendly way to process these things that must be disposed of
yeah,
without feeding them to another creature.
absolutely. Plus,
Um,
they're illegal.
Plus, they are illegal. Those animals died by something other than by slaughter.
Yeah,
That
federal
is,
law
that is not
says
food.
any
That is not food.
food, and food is defined as anything that humans or animals consume. Uh,
Yeah.
any food is adulterated if it contains any part of a diseased animal or an animal that has died other
Hmm.
than by slaughter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Diane makes a good point, and someone else above, I can't scroll back that far, mentioned, yes, in France they eat horse meat, but those are handled in a manner that's suitable for human consumption.
Right.
Ethics of whether you think it's okay to eat horses or not, that's everyone's personal decision, but nobody should be eating a 4D dead, down, disease, or dying animal. It's not a good thing.
And the trick that some manufacturers use, just so pet owners can know, is so you'll call the manufacturer and say, um, does your dog food, cat food contain any 4D animals? And they'll say, oh no, we source all of our ingredients from USDA facilities. Well, that really didn't answer your question, because condemned animals come from USDA facilities. So
Yeah.
if you're going to ask a manufacturer about the quality of their ingredients, ask them specifically, are they human edible? Are they USDA inspected and approved for human consumption?
Yeah. And we were talking about this before. People who are feeding raw, commercial, or semi-raw DIY sorts of things think that they're immune to this problem.
And they're not.
And nope, you're in some ways you're an even easier mark than the person feeding kibble, because you automatically trust the nice guy who makes a custom grind of meat, organ, bone. Oh great, he's only selling it for $1.50 a pound, and these other raw companies are $3 and $4 a pound at minimum, and you know, you think it's great. Many of those are not what you think they'd be.
Many, not many, there are more than one
Yes.
raw manufacturers whose side job are USDA licensed dead animal haulers. So if a horse is euthanized, in many cases, that farm can't bury that horse. They don't have the room for it. And there's very strict laws about burial of a pentobarbital euthanized animals. Those are Department of Fish and Wildlife laws, by the way, because wildlife, including eagles, have died from consuming a part of a euthanized carcass. So they'll call a renderer. But what isn't, they'll call a dead animal hauler. But what they're not told is that some of those dead animal haulers then butcher that animal and make raw pet food out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And they may yes, and we think who you're talking about. They may say this is beef mix, beef muscle, beef organ, beef bone, and there could be any other proteins in there.
Even if it is beef, it could have been a cow that died.
Sure.
A milk cow that died on the farm. They found it in the field 3 days later, called the dead animal hauler, and that gets processed into pet food.
Yeah.
And by the way, FDA is aware that this goes on, and they do absolutely nothing to stop it.
Yeah, yeah. But it's so disheartening because there are so many good raw pet food companies that do produce, true products with a true label, trying to do it right, whether they're a prey model or supplemental kind of design grinds or something that is nutritionally complete. And, many of them submit to you to be on the list, and they're totally transparent. And then these other companies coast off those folks' good reputation.
Yeah,
and bugs me.
For anybody watching, if you ask, you have every right to ask as many questions as you feel you need to ask. Do it. You're trusting that product with your pet's life. And if they try to skirt your questions, if they try to divert you to another topic, don't buy it. There's plenty other options. This is your animal's life, and you gotta do your homework. And if they don't provide transparency to you, go to somebody else.
Yes, without a doubt. I don't know what my dogs are barking at, but evidently there's something going
Somebody's
on.
at the front door. It's a delivery.
That's UPS tomorrow. Oh my God, guys. Let's talk Expo for a minute. I think I'm getting 7 boxes tomorrow. I don't know what they are. I know who some of the companies sending them are. BJ's Raw is sending some stuff. Earth Bath. I forget who else. The bags are coming, as far as I know. Just to put it out there is no COVID vaccine requirement, test requirement. There is no mask requirement up here. So I'm seeing on Facebook, people are like, I don't want to come because of the mandate. There is no mandate anymore. Everybody is free to choose whether they want to wear a mask or not. Nobody's going to be hunting you down and saying, show me your passport or anything like that. So please spread the word. Tell people if they have any doubts. On the front page of healthydogexpo.com, just scroll down. It's right at the bottom of the screen there. And so you'll have the most up-to-date information. But I think we're on the way to being much more normal. And I don't want anybody to not come and then say, oh, well, I didn't know that it was a non-issue. So please spread the word. Thank you. End of commercial. Diane, yeah. Is there lunch? Yes, there is lunch on Saturday, Diane. On Sunday we wrap at noon, so you're on your own. But yes, there are box lunches there. There are also is a restaurant on site, and within walking distance, any number of them. So, and if it's cold
Depending
out,
on the weather.
depending on the weather, yeah. If it's cold out,
For
somebody has
weenies
to
like
drive
me.
Susan in her heavy heated jacket, but it will all be good. It will all be good. So let's see. We had some questions here that looked interesting. Ask about specific raw food companies. It's hard because some of those we won't necessarily know. Would you answer this, Susan? Can you? If you were going to purchase meat, human grade, from a local organic farm, would it be USDA processed?
Yeah, me
Would that
personally,
depend on
yes,
the
I would.
state?
Do what?
If it's processed on the farm?
Well, they have mobile USDA
Okay.
inspector units and slaughter facilities that come to farms. I'm a regulations person, and even though a lot of them aren't enforced, I still believe that those regulations and laws are there for a good reason. So for USDA to oversee, to have a meat inspector on site, to me, that's a little bit of a guarantee that everything was done correctly, that that was not a diseased animal. When the USDA is there, they do inspection before the animal is slaughtered, and then they inspect after the animal is slaughtered.
And they would be looking for
organs.
potentially cancerous organs or something.
Yeah, that's right. So yes, that's me personally. Not everybody feels that way, but me personally, yes, I would suggest it to be USDA inspected and passed.
Yeah, that's the wording. And the other wording you'll see is fit for human consumption.
Yes.
And those are both good things.
Yeah.
Now, we do see other words in pet food associated with, the type of formula or what the food name is. Can you run down the list of those, like the dinners and the meals and all that stuff?
Yeah. In fact, I have it all right here. Fresh, by the way, is not defined in any way, shape, or form. So fresh means whatever the manufacturer wants it to mean. So pet food names, the actual name of the product, there are regulations on those. Products that have the descriptor, formula, dinner, platter, entree, recipe with a named food ingredient, such as the dog food is named chicken formula. Okay. That chicken and formula, the regulation is that product is required to contain 10%, a minimum of 10% chicken. In a 10-pound bag of dog food, that equates to 1 pound of chicken in 10 pounds of dog food. In a 10-ounce container, say of cat food, that means only 1 ounce of chicken has to be in there. So let me back it up even further. Chicken in pet food, the legal definition of chicken in pet food can be chicken skin, chicken bones, and or chicken meat. And it can be USDA inspected and passed, or it can be condemned. So that 1 pound in a 10-pound bag or 1 ounce in a 10-ounce can could be 1 ounce of chicken bones. Very little meat.
Or bones and skin.
Yeah, we aren't told.
Wow.
When products have 2 food ingredient names in the title, as example, a chicken and rice, dog food, cat food. The two ingredients regulations require 3%, a minimum of only 3% of chicken, 3% of rice, 3% of
Wow.
each of the two named ingredients. So back to a 10-pound bag of pet food, 4.8 ounces of chicken.
That's
A
ridiculous.
10-ounce can, 0.3 ounces of chicken.
Wow.
0.3 ounces. The same 3% rule is with products that say with chicken, whatever, with chicken, with beef. That's 3% as well. And when products are named flavor, chicken flavored, beef flavored, 0% of the named ingredient is required to be in the product.
That is just mind boggling. And, I think of like some of the canned foods where it's, cowboy barbecue entree, with beef
Yeah,
or beef flavored cowboy barbecue.
yeah,
So it could be
yeah.
anything. It could
There's
be,
a lot of
bone
flavor.
and blood meal.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, so that FDA does have some of this information on their website available to the public. But who's going to know to find it?
Yeah.
Not very many people. And so AFCO defines all of these label regulations, and they are adopted into state law.
Mm-hmm.
And as example, the state of Florida. Florida adopts these AFCO regulations, but they don't make them public. They protect AFCO. Any law should be public that anybody can read should they want to dig into this. But with pet food, these laws, the label laws, the nutritional requirements, all of these things are privately held by AFCO. They own them and copyright protect them, which is just a travesty. All it does is continue pet owners not understanding what they're buying.
What they're buying. And Christy brings up the perfect example of the pet owner not knowing or not being able to tell what they're buying by the way the ingredients are listed in order from most to least.
Well, it does mean the regulations on pet food are that ingredients are listed by order of pre-cooking weight, heaviest to lightest.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem comes in that if chicken is listed, another pet food peeve is made with real chicken or made with farm-raised chicken. That's opposed to city-raised chicken, okay? No city-raised chicken in pet food. But the chicken, it can be several things. For one, it is moisture included when it's listed in that ingredient panel. And say a whole chicken can be up to 70% moisture. So when that's cooked out of the pet food, you don't have as much chicken, but the ingredients are listed pre-cooking weight. Also, and this is written up on petfoodindustry.com, Dr. David DeZanis, who used to work for FDA, and now he is a consultant for the pet food industry, wrote a post about this, and FDA is allowing this to happen as well. They're using dehydrated chicken and then rehydrating it prior to manufacturing of pet food. And Dr. DeZanis alluded that some manufacturers are overly rehydrating it, adding much more moisture back to it so that it appears heavier than it really is.
It becomes the first ingredient.
Yeah.
So think of the processing here. we took the chicken, we dehydrated it at a high temperature. Now it's a fine brown powder. Now we're going
Basically
to add
chicken
more
meal.
water back to it
Yeah.
so that we can then list it first on
And
the
not
box
disclose it to the consumer that
and
it's
not
been
disclose it.
rehydrated.
And then we're going to cook it again.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 times actually. In kibble, the rendered ingredients are cooked once. And if it's a dehydrated ingredient, which you're not told, that's not going to be disclosed to you on the label. Right. It's cooked. When they put them in the mixer and mix all of these ingredients together, they are treated with heat. Through the extrusion process, they're treated with heat and pressure, and then they're heated again because then they're dried. Because it's basically a dough. When
that any nutrients survive this experience is mind-boggling. Absolutely.
That's why there's so many supplements following the food ingredients.
Yes, yes. So one of the things that happens on our Thursday afternoon conversations, which we have,
besides cussing a lot,
we do swear a lot, but we also get engaged in a little bit of detective work sometimes. And Madeline, you're one of our people. So how does one figure out, let's say you're somewhere where there is this nice farmer type guy who makes grinds, and you want to know, is there a possibility that he's also a dead animal hauler or renderer or, hooked up with somebody that would make you doubt what product he's producing?
The USDA is who regulates rendering facilities and licenses dead animal haulers. Okay, so, and they keep a database. It is like a needle in a haystack trying to find that on the USDA database, at USDA website. But USDA, I think, is much more open to questions than FDA is. They have a Ask FSIS. FSIS stands for Food Safety Inspection Services. They have a little icon where you can click and you can ask the question and they'll respond. So you can ask them for a listing of who the dead animal haulers, licensed dead animal haulers are for your state. And they'll provide it to you.
And you can look up their current license number for, John Doe Dead Animal Hauling Services of, where.
Correct. And the same thing would go for if a pet food company is telling you that they're human grade and you're questioning that. Well, human grade for any food that contains more than 3% meat, for it to abide by law, a USDA inspector is on site at that food manufacturing facility during hours any food is being manufactured. If they operate 24/7, a USDA food inspector has to be on site. So, and you can also ask the USDA, who's on site? Is this a licensed, is a USDA inspector at this facility? Give them the address of the facility, give them the name of the company. Is this product made under USDA inspection?
Wow. Yeah. And that, that human grade claim, we plan to talk about that. So let's talk about that. What does a human grade claim mean? When a food, Acme Pet Food puts that right on their label, human grade.
Acme human grade. To meet the definition, okay, the definition is all ingredients, including supplements, have to be human edible. All ingredients are transported and warehoused per human food safety regulations. And the manufacturing facility is a USDA manufacturing facility under inspection. The guidelines written by AFCO and FDA for a human grade pet food state that they do not, it's sort of an all or nothing deal. Either you meet all of these requirements or you cannot reference, you can't say, I'm made in a pet food facility, but I use human grade ingredients. They're not supposed to do that. And actually there's a Mars product right now, and I was flabbergasted that Mars is pushing the envelope. Mars is at every AFCO meeting, multiple Mars employees. They're on these working groups. They know, but Mars has a product now that actually looks identical to Fresh Pet.
Oh, I remember seeing those pictures.
Yes. And they have a seal on their label that says made with human grade ingredients. That's not allowed.
Yeah, that's
no manufacturer is allowed to do that. It's not just Mars. No manufacturer, and the guidelines also state this for your label, and they consider your label to be not only the actual label, but your website and any advertising is an extension of the label.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that manufacturers that are going to the expense of buying human edible ingredients, they want to be able to tell consumers, we're made in a licensed pet food facility, so we don't meet the whole standard of the claim, but we're using human grade ingredients. I get that you want to make that claim, but you can't. And if they're unhappy about that, I encourage them to be knocking on FDA's door and saying, hey, we need a way to communicate to pet owners, telling them the truth of what's in our product. But the flip side of that is that there are, and some of these companies have been caught, they have claimed they use human grade ingredients when they've been found not to. Mm-hmm. So, it's ridiculous that companies cheat and lie, but they do.
Yeah, sad but true. And I think I'm not aware of any kibble that meets that human grade claim, right? Is there?
I think Honest Kitchen.
But I wouldn't call Honest Kitchen a kibble.
It's a baked product. It's not an extruded product.
I'm thinking, when I'm saying kibble, I mean an extruded product.
Yeah. Well, and there could be. So cereal,
right?
Kellogg's Corn Flakes. That's an extruded product.
Yeah.
And that's a human grade product. So if a manufacturer wanted to, it would be expensive. But if they wanted to, they could manufacture a human grade. They couldn't use any meat meals in it, but they could manufacture it with all fresh meats.
Right. Because you'd have to do it. They'd have to have some carb in there. Yeah. This is one of the things that we laughed and swore about.
Oh, that I reported that to FDA as well. Yeah. I report a lot of things to FDA. But to me, and this is my personal interpretation of what Alton Brown did, to me, that was manipulated. That was a marketing spin. Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, that is so dangerous to even do that. Purdue University did a study, and I also sent this to FDA. Did a study, and they found, I think 8%, I believe was the stat. 8% of pet owners reported they had eaten their pet's food or treat. And if it's human grade, that's no big deal. It's food. It's no different.
It might not be tasty, but
but if it's feed grade, believe me, there are so many dangerous things that could be in that product. Oh my gosh.
And I think of homeless people and such, and you'll read where homeless people have spoken about they couldn't afford a can of tuna, but they could afford a can of tuna flavored cat food.
Years ago, I started doing. I just did a few blog talk radio. I did
Mhm.
interviews, um, and I had connected with some retired FDA representatives that were pretty open about the misgivings of the agency, and so I had them on. And they stated that the FDA back in I think it was in the 70s, maybe in the early 80s, that the FDA secretly, and I've tried filing a FOIA request for this, but the FDA plays dumb. But these guys used to work for the FDA, so they knew it happened. The
Mhm.
FDA performed a study of just how many homeless people, low income level people, were eating pet food, and the numbers were quite high.
Yeah, it's
So
scary.
they're fully aware that it happens.
And, truthfully, it's not the manufacturer's fault because they labeled it for pet food, but
Yeah,
it's a problem that we need to address in this
but if
country.
you're going to to me, it's the manufacturer's fault if you participated in a marketing campaign
Mhm.
that promoted that, and if,
No doubt.
like with Alton Brown, if he did that on his own, that's fine, but
Well, like the owner of
manufacturer
Avengers did.
warned him, don't eat it.
Yeah, don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah,
Um, and we know, various companies like Avengers have pulled stunts where they, whoops, sorry, uh, where they ate the food. Um, but no, I mean, don't do that. Don't do that.
Barbara, I love your dog's picture. That is too cute.
That is cute.
Do you mean, who are you referencing with license renewals? A pet food manufacturer or the dead animal hauler? Back on that topic, and either one, actually, I don't know.
It might vary state to state.
Well, since it's done through a federal
Well,
level,
it is
USDA, with the dead animal haulers.
Mhm,
Pet food manufacturers are required to be registered with the FDA,
mhm,
and a human grade manufacturer as well. But a human grade manufacturer has to register. The facility itself is registered with the USDA as a facility that manufactures human food, but they also have to be registered with the FDA as a pet food facility. And this is so that FDA can trace should a
should the
problem
need be.
occur. And so that's constant. I think they have to renew their license, I think, every 2 years. But it's just a registration
Yeah, a formality
for
and
a
give us
pet food
$50 or
manufacturer.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So lots of people, yeah, thinking a lot of people saying their dogs' raw food bills are high, and yes, but when you think of what you save in vet care, it offsets it quite a bit.
absolutely. I have 5 cats and 2 dogs, and yeah, and I get no deals. I do not allow a manufacturer to gift me pet food. They can't even buy me lunch. And
Yeah,
I buy it at pet stores just like everybody else does. And it is expensive. That's where I make a lot of my pet food. My guys get,
do some DIY.
yeah, they get, and Dr. Karen Becker has some wonderful, and Rodney Habib have some wonderful recipes. They're like $3, and they're balanced,
Yeah.
completely balanced, and you know exactly what's going in there because you made it. So, and it's not rocket science. My cooking has never killed anybody. Pet food cannot make the same claim.
True.
And thank you, Susan Robinson, about the list. I appreciate that. That's how I support the work that I do. I couldn't exist without the list and Petsumer Report. I'm 100% consumer supported.
Yes, and as you said, you don't let anybody um, do anything that could possibly influence you, by donations, by buying you lunch, by giving you free product, anything like that. Just Oh, Janet. Janet made an observation. She finds her local, and Janet is blessed to live in God's country where there are great farmers nearby. And I would say the same thing. My farmer prices have not changed as much. Supermarket prices are all over the place with the trucking things and all. Um, so I see a lot of varying prices at the supermarket.
But it might be that the farmers haven't, they're probably affected by other things and they might end up having to raise their prices.
They may have to, yeah.
If they don't and they have a good customer base that is supporting them, then maybe they don't. And local sourced, the farmer, how these animals are treated. If pet owners if you can, and it's expensive, and I do this as often as I can. I can't always. But for the meats that I eat, that my animals eat, as much as you can, if you can source the pet foods, meats from humanely raised animals, that's huge. If an animal is giving their life to sustain us, to sustain our animals, then they at least should be treated humanely, fed properly. All this waste garbage that goes into pet food, it also goes into livestock feed. There are actually AAFCO-defined ingredients for cow poop that is being fed to chickens. It's legally defined. And chicken poop that is being fed to cattle. Okay, so and
my favorite chicken aggregate meal or poultry aggregate meal. Yeah. That's a fancy way of saying feathers.
Yeah,
feather meal, ground up feathers,
and whatever else we can find to throw in at the time. Yeah.
But are ground up feathers a protein source for a dog? Really? Who dreamed that up?
The poultry industry kind of
you put in a pillow.
The poultry industry kind of jokes that they and by the way, everybody, this is exactly how Lori and I talk on our phone calls. We talk over top of each other. The poultry industry brags that they sell everything except the cluck. And the chickens cluck, they sell everything else. So to somebody.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's totally crazy.
There's been a lot of birds that they call it depopulated, poultry farm flocks that have been depopulated because of avian flu. In the news very recently, Indiana, Kentucky, and maybe Illinois, there's another state, but I did ask USDA. The first news was just for Kentucky. And so I asked how the birds were euthanized and if those, because a lot of times, and this is done state by state decision, even though it's USDA making the decisions, they make it in partnership with the state authority, State Department of Ag or whoever. But in Kentucky, knock on wood, those birds were composted. But right across the border in Indiana, they might not be.
Yeah.
And we're never told, we're never told. When in 2017, 2018, maybe Hurricane Florence hit North and South Carolina, floods and many factory farms flooded. Animals literally drowned in their confinement barns. Millions of turkey and chickens, I think like 3,000 hogs. Those animals were allowed to be rendered. When the floods went down, they came in with bulldozers, bulldozed all that material out. Yeah. And that just happened. I just found a news story about that up in Canada.
Oh, really?
Canada was suffering from floods, and they allowed, once the water subsided, they allowed a lot of the poultry to be processed into pet food. with no disclosure to the
Wrong.
consumer.
Just wrong.
On June, on any post on my website underneath, there is a link to the list, and on the side, it's a little round seal you'll see in the sidebar of any post, not on the homepage, but on any post is a link on truthaboutpetfood.com.
Good. All right, you guys, we're coming up on the hour. So time for your last questions to pop in here. Let's see, Ruth. Oh, yeah, Ruth said Ruth grew up on a egg producing farm, and they compost it and use it for fertilizer. That makes ultimate sense.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Absolutely ultimate sense.
I grew up with my grandparents, my dad's parents. They raised beagles. And these dogs never had a commercial pet food. My grandparents thought we were nuts going to the grocery and buying pet food. What are you doing? And they got scraps from the dinner table. Whatever was left over was kind of just all mixed together, and they gave them that. My grandfather hunted rabbits, squirrels, and when he would clean the animals, the fur and the internal organs were just dropped on the ground, and the dogs ate them. He fished, and the same thing with cleaning the fish. And these dogs lived, there was no disease. Granted, we do have the advantage now of having all the nutrients in the proper levels, given at the proper times in a complete and balanced pet food, hopefully. But these dogs, so I grew up that way. Then I was bought into the brainwashing of, I didn't even, when I had my first dog, I didn't even give them a bite of raw pet food. Oh my God, you can't do that. And here I witnessed as a little kid growing up, seeing dogs eat this. I knew it was fine. And then the realization, then a dog of mine gets bone cancer and dies, and reality sort of slaps you upside the head and you go, So, that's how it used to be done all the time. I can't emphasize enough that your dog or cat's diet does need to provide all the nutrients. You've got to do it right. You can't just throw some meat at them and call it a day. You've got to do it right, but it's not rocket science either,
Very true. Once you figure out your sourcing and your basic nutrient categories,
recipe,
it's really pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's really pretty easy. So let's see. Yeah. Natalie said her grandparents did the same thing with their beagles.
Yeah. My grandfather called them beetle hounds. He was so cute.
Funny. So thank you everyone for being here with us. There are 98 of you on here, which thrills me to death.
I hope you're all up at Lori's event, and
come, please spread the word. Please tell people, don't panic. You don't have to wear a mask if you don't want to. You don't have to prove you're vaccinated. You don't have to prove that you've had a test. You can go eat in our restaurants. We're not like New York City where you have to prove vaccination status. Things are much freer. The information is on the website. Scroll down on the homepage, look at the ticket page. You can see I linked to our county data, so you can see each day how many people tested positive in the county. So you can know and make the choice that's right for you. As I said, all this stuff is landing on my doorstep starting tomorrow. So you will have amazing gift bags. I've added a couple more amazing sponsors, and they will be there with their products and information. And it's just going to be so much fun. And you'll listen to this lady talking, sharing all the updates, what new things we've discovered. It's going to be amazing. So thank you guys. We're going to run and get back to work.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Next